But y'all hop back on the live. Drop those comments, send those messages. We still got a lot of football to get to. So please, we definitely appreciate everybody that tuned in early. Again, apologies for the technical difficulties, but we are back and we are ready to go. We ended off talking about the AFC playoff picture, how the home game situation was going to work out since they canceled the Bills Bengals game. They had the neutral zone site. Eric, you were talking about you were giving us your thoughts on the neutral zone. You want to just get back into that?
Absolutely. Like I mentioned, man, it's the NFL has handled it about as well as they can. No one saw or could have projected what was going to take place on Monday Night Football last week. Because it was so late in the season, you and I, Trip, have talked about it in the past that the league really wasn't given much time to try to figure out if they could potentially play that game, continue that game, reschedule that game. And so it was so late in the season that the league kind of had to figure it out on the fly. For Kansas City, I know it's a little unfair. You win 14 games, you should have the right to host an AFC Championship game. But I also think a neutral field for the AFC Championship game could still work out very well and can still be an entertaining playoff scenario.
Yeah, I definitely will say it sucks for the Chiefs. Just from and again, because I don't want to take anything away from what happened with Damar Hamlin. I completely, you and I both spoken on that. But I will say this, right? For every other team in the league, it's football and injuries are a part of the game. So, for Kansas City to do what they needed to do to continue to win out and they finished off the season very strong, and then to say, all right, well, nah, we still gotta we still gotta play this game. If it comes down to it, the AFC championship game is still gonna be on a neutral site. That kind of sucks for them. From that respect. And again, because we don't know what would have happened in that game with the Bills and the Bengals. Who knows? When the game started with the Bengals up 7-3, but again, only 5 minutes were played in that game, so we really don't know what the outcome would have been. And the NFL did it. I mean, pretty much what they could have done. They tried to make it fair all the way around. Obviously somebody was not gonna come out on top in the situation. Um, Funny though, funny little story. Your guys actually turned down the neutral zone site. The Colts were offered the game, the championship game, and they said, "Nah, we good on that. We ain't tripping over that. Y'all can keep it."
Yeah, yeah. For whatever reason, I don't know what the Colts have scheduled in that building because obviously we know it ain't football. But the Colts have turned it down, and I did hear a report during the early game yesterday, during the Raiders Chiefs game, that
Uh,
the Raiders offered their stadium as a neutral site if the league would like to go that route. So we have not heard from the league as to which stadium they're going to select. I would assume we're going to hear that by the time the playoffs start. But we had thrown out a couple on Friday because we talked about obviously Colts, which now have turned it down. You got the Raiders. You may have SoFi available, and then they may wait and see. Obviously, the Texan Stadium is going to be available, so I'm sure within the next week or two we're going to find out exactly where the AFC Championship game will be if that scenario needs to play out. Remember, that's only an if Kansas City were to face possibly Buffalo. It looks like right now because I think Buffalo is the only option in terms of if they would have faced off in the AFC Championship game, because Buffalo would have been the only team that could have gotten that number one seed at this point, aside from Kansas City.
yeah, facts, facts. Shout out to everybody on the live, man. Y'all check back in with us. I love that, man. I love the support. Y'all jump right back in there. Yo, drop a comment for us, man. Let us know who you taking in today's games. There's a lot of football games, a lot of meaningful football games that will be on a little bit later today. Well, starting at 1 o'clock. So yeah, drop a comment. Make sure you guys are also following us on all our social media as well, man. Hit that website, realfansrealtalk.com, Twitter, Instagram at Real Fan Talk. And make sure you guys are subscribed to both the Sanchez Show podcast and the Real Fans Real Talk podcast. Man, we got a whole lot of content coming in 2023. Again, this is our first live episode of 2023. So definitely want to oh, here we go. Definitely want to, say Happy New Year to everybody. Who's been supporting us and rocking with us for the for this whole time, man. But let's get back to it. NFL, we got some big games going down today with playoff implications. One game which is a lead into another game that's going to be coming on later tonight. That Rams Seahawks game, which has a lot of playoff implications tied to it. If the Seahawks can somehow manage to beat the Rams, they can get that final playoff spot. But if they lose, then that's going to make this Sunday night football game between the Detroit Lions and the Green Bay Packers that much more interesting. So let's start with the Seahawks and the Rams. Eric, on the shout out to Will Gordon on the Friday Night Lives. We all kind of figured that Seattle would win this game. Has your thoughts on that changed at all?
I got to correct you right there. I actually have the Rams
Oh, you
winning. I
got
said
the
that
Rams.
up front.
Okay.
Yeah, I like the Rams to win this game. I think Seattle has not really played well over the last month, and I also think that the Rams have a couple guys that are kind of trying to play for their next contract or possibly secure their roster spot. Most notably Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield, I think this is might be a career defining game for him because at this point he's a journeyman quarterback. He's got to try to solidify his spot on that Rams team if he plans on being there next year. I think Sean McVay would love nothing more than to play spoiler to Seattle. And I also think again, Seattle was played over their head most of the season. No one expected them to be in this spot last month. Like I said, month or so they've struggled a little bit. So I would not be surprised if they stumble today against a division rival. Vegas, I think, kind of feels the same way because that number has dropped on that line. Originally opened at about 7 points, now it's down to 5.5. So I think Vegas is feeling the same way that this game could be closer and potentially an upset in the afternoon slate.
And excuse me, we all picked the Rams. I'm sorry because we
Right.
did have the Sunday night game actually being the playing game for the playoffs. So excuse me on that one, guys. But yeah, I continue to think that way. You mentioned Sean McVay, who was actually talking about stepping away this before the start of this season. We've seen everything that's transpired with the Rams this season. I mean, obviously, ain't no more playoff dreams. They did deal with a lot of injuries. Um, so do you think Sean McVay steps away from the Rams this year? And two-part question. And if he does step away from the Rams, does he take some time off or does he jump right back into coaching a new team?
So I think he will stick around at least one more season. I know this was a tough year for them with the injuries and trying to live up to and repeat as Super Bowl champions. But I do think that now this break that they're going to get, their season's over, long off season, will kind of reinvigorate and relight the fire under him to get it going. But if he does step away, and as you mentioned, this was a conversation that they had last off season. So if he now decides, you know what, I am going to step away, I think it is to take a break. This is an NFL lifer, even though he's still young and he's in his late 30s. There's a guy who's been around the game pretty much from the time he's graduated college, right? He's been some sort of coordinator or receivers coach or some form of fashion. He's been around the game, so I wouldn't be surprised if he's just a little burnt out through the process. Again, he was the youngest head coach at the time when he was hired. They've had a lot of success in LA with him as the head coach, so he may need a year or two to step away just to kind of recharge a little bit. I think though he is going to stick around. I think once they realize the roster they have, everybody's healthy next year, they may give it one more go at trying to add to that one Super Bowl because they ain't got no draft picks. So whatever you got now is what you're coming back with next year.
Yeah, they do have a really good roster. They still have a solid defense. Everybody just has to be healthy. Obviously, you lose a lot by not being able to bring back Odell, to not being able to bring back Von Miller. So you lose a lot on offense and the defensive side of the football, and the injuries really kicked their butts this season. But teams go through that. I do think they can bounce back next season as long as everybody stays healthy. Yeah, and I think coming off of winning the Super Bowl, do you really want to just let it go just after one season, one injury plague season? I wouldn't. I think he does come back, give it one more go. If it doesn't work next season, then maybe I can see him taking some time away and then coming back and because good young coach. He's gonna get offers. People are probably trying to throw some offers at him now. They're probably gearing up to try to see if they can snatch him away from the Rams right now. Um, You know what I mean? So, but that game, so now since we both got the Rams winning that game, ultimately, if that happens, it leads up to the Sunday night game tonight between the Green Bay Packers and the Detroit Lions, a division rivalry game, a big division rivalry game. Um, I like the Packers in this game. I think they have turned up the second half of the season. Now again, there's no Devontae Adams there, but Aaron Rodgers has found a young rookie to go to the second half of the season. They've been winning a lot of games, looking good. They dominated a very good Minnesota Vikings team. To keep this thing going. And I think Aaron Rodgers and the Packers get into the playoffs. I think they get the win on Sunday Night Football against a very offensively loaded Detroit Lions team. But I think the Packers ultimately get in, man. What you think, Eric?
Yeah, I agree. My heart is hoping for Detroit. I would just really like Detroit to win. Nothing personal, but I just really like their offense and I like the turnaround they've had. I like the season that Jared Goff has had. I like the weapons, the running backs that they have there. So I would be intrigued to see them in the playoffs, knowing that they're a team that easily could put up, 27, 30 points and put a scare into somebody. But my mind is telling me otherwise. It's Aaron Rodgers. They figured it out. Uh, it's crazy to think that about Watson starts turning into Randy Moss and starts going crazy on the field. And now Green Bay's in this position. I expect Aaron Rodgers and them to win tonight in a very close and entertaining game.
Yeah, I do as well. I mean, listen, if Jair Alexander can shut down arguably the best wide receiver in football and make him look like a third string high school rejects, and I'm talking about Justin Jefferson here. Listen, I think he gonna put a little bit of work in on St. Brown and the rest of that receiving corps out there because he's trying to get back to the playoffs, and I love that for the Packers. Again, I'm taking the Packers to win tonight. Let me I got to shout out my youngin, my nephew Aiden. He's on right now watching us. He asked us to get to the Ravens Bengals game, so I'm gonna switch this thing up to talk a little bit about the Bengals and the Ravens. He says the Ravens are winning that game. He was with me, on that Sunday night game a week ago with the Steelers when they took a bad loss. He thinks the Ravens are coming back this week. I'm always going to vote for the Ravens in this situation, but I think most importantly here is the status of Lamar Jackson and whether or not he's going to be able to play today or if the Ravens will save him for the playoffs. If he plays today, I think they do have a good chance of winning this game. If he doesn't play today, it just means that the Ravens are going to be getting him ready for the wild card round of the playoffs because they either way they did lock in their playoff spot. But Eric, what do you think about Lamar Jackson and the Ravens moving into the playoffs?
So I love this Ravens defense. I've talked about it many times. I think this Ravens defense is really, really good, and it's also really underrated. I think the offense is the issue here. Lamar's not going to play today. We know that they're going to hold him out for the playoffs. Dobbins is not going to play today, and there's already been rumors that Huntley is not going to play today. And as we're recording this, it's about an hour and a half till kickoff. So the Ravens aren't even sure who they're going to start at quarterback. So for me, Cincinnati's going to play their guys. Cincinnati's trying to lock up the division and make sure that they at least host one home playoff game. I expect Cincinnati to win today. I think the Ravens are punting on today's game purely to be healthy going into the playoffs. So shout out to Aiden. He the youngest in charge, man. But I don't think the Ravens could win this one with their third string quarterback and without their running back.
Yeah, listen, Aiden, it's something that you got to understand about NFL football. When it comes down to this time of year, the most important thing is health and getting the best roster that you can on the field going into the playoffs. And I believe that they signed another quarterback. I think it was Anthony Brown. I think it was they signed a week ago. So it may be him getting the start today. But again, Aiden, look, this is a meaningless game. Don't worry. Get ready for next week for the playoffs for the wild card. That's the most important thing to get Lamar Jackson back healthy for the playoffs. And if they can do that, then who knows? Maybe they can make a little playoff run, get a 1 or 2, and possibly sneak into the championship game. Who knows?
Yeah, and just to let Aiden know too. Yeah, so Anthony Brown is correct, as you mentioned. I was just reading up. He's probably going to get the start today. Huntley was limited in practice all week, and they may hold him out just for that reason. But also, something else to keep in mind: Ravens, only way they can move up is to win the division today. If they don't win today, they're locked into number 6, which means they're probably going to have to play Cincinnati next week in the first round of playoffs. And as we've talked about before, you never want to give away too much of the game plan right before the playoffs. So it's very possible that Harbaugh and the coaching staff is looking at this as like, hey, we don't want to show anything right now. We don't want to risk any injuries because we're going to have to see these guys again next week.
Oh, so we playing chess.
Right. We playing chess. You have to this time of year.
But I will say this, Aiden, if the Ravens still manage to win this game with the third string quarterback in there, I'm calling you for all of my tickets moving forward because you obviously know something that the rest of us don't know. So I'm gonna call you when I'm ready to put my next ticket in.
That's a fact. That means he's locked in. We going that's private conversations though. We're not gonna put that on the live. That's inside that's insider trading right there, Trip. Insider trading. Everybody can't hear that.
My bad. Shout out to the young guru. Another shout out I gotta make, DeMar Hamlin, Buffalo Bills safety. He is continuing to recover. He dropped his first message on social media since collapsing on the field, which we are all very happy about. Shout out to the NFL as a whole. They really came together to show love and support for their fallen brother. They had on the 30-yard line in the games yesterday. They had the outline on the 3 for him. I seen guys wearing his name on shirts, on jerseys, on cleats, on everything. So I'm really happy about the NFL brotherhood and how they all came together to support one of their own. We are continuing to wish DeMar Hamlin a continued recovery, a speedy recovery. I'm happy, man. I'm happy for that young man, because what the ordeal that he has gone through over the past week, is really tough. I know on him, on his family, on his friends, on his teammates. So I just want to wish him a continued speedy recovery.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm so happy that we've seen the progress that we've seen over the last few days.
Yes.
It seems like it was so long ago, but it was just a week ago. So, to go from where we were at Monday night and all the uncertainty we had on Tuesday to now where we're at now with all the positive news and the young man being able to communicate on his own, sending out messages. We kind of teased it on Friday, man. That Buffalo Bills, that stadium, that energy that's going to be there today is going to be crazy because that fan base and that organization has gone through so much over the last week. I know they can't wait to get out there to the stadium. And as you mentioned too, we got to applaud the NFL and all of the fans of the NFL, man, to see the donations that were poured into his organization. Within a matter of like 48 hours, his over $2 million have been donated to his organization and to his toy drive. All the well wishes to his family, man. So I think that was beautiful to see as well, how everyone who loves and supports the NFL came together for DeMar Hamlin.
Listen, man. One thing about us, man. We got our issues and whatnot, but ultimately we will come together, to support, you know, one of ours, and that's what we saw this past week. It's just something that none of us has ever seen before. A true, freak occurrence, and just the outpour of love and support for this young man is nothing short of amazing, and we got to applaud ourselves, for that, because with so much stuff going on in this world, so much negative, but to see something like that, and not just from the Bills organization or from his family, but really just from everybody, just kind of coming in and doing their part. I seen people that are the farthest thing from sports fans posting and sending prayers out for this young brother, because it was such a big story. Obviously, the magnitude of it being one of the bigger Monday Night Football games of the year. But I've seen so many people just just sending out love and support and prayers that we really got to applaud ourselves. I'm happy to see that. Like that really, what I'm saying, makes me feel good knowing how we can come together. Now, if we can continue to do that with everything, we'll be a lot better off. But listen, this is a start, and I will definitely take it. Um, let's jump into these last playoff spots because there's three teams in the AFC and there's three teams in the NFC that are looking to lock the last playoff spot in both conferences. We'll start with the AFC. Right now, it's going to come down to the New England Patriots, the Miami Dolphins, or the Pittsburgh Steelers. Um, Eric, big games, all three of those teams. Who do you think ultimately winds up with the last playoff spot in the AFC?
Oh, so I'll try to keep it as positive as possible because I don't think any one of those teams is really good. So I'm going to go with the coach and quarterback combination that I trust the most, which is going to be Bill Belichick and Mac Jones. The
Mm.
Dolphins are out there with the third string quarterback and rookie head coach and Mike McDaniels, who's never been in this situation. So I don't know how confident I am with them to be able to win that game. Pittsburgh is out there with Kenny Pickett, who has not played well. And though I think the world of Mike Tomlin, and I think Mike Tomlin has done a phenomenal job just to be in this position, just to be in this position. Um, I
Those
don't
quarterbacks.
know. Say that again.
I said with those quarterbacks,
Right. He had to shuffle between Trubisky and Kenny Pickett all year. So he's done a phenomenal job. That Pittsburgh defense is pretty good, but you yourself got to see them firsthand last week. And as you let me know, it wasn't pretty. It wasn't pretty out there with that Pittsburgh offense. So I gotta trust Bill and the Patriots. Now, I don't think they're gonna beat Buffalo, which we talked about on Friday. And I think they're going to kind of backdoor their way into the playoffs because I think all three of these teams are going to lose. And it's just going to end up happening that the Patriots hold the tiebreaker. So I guess in that sense, I got to say that's who I trust the most to make the playoffs. New England.
so, so we picking all three of these teams to lose today, but so we're going with the best loser. Is what you?
I just try to put I try to put a positive spin on it. It's Sunday, Trip. It's Sunday. I try to keep it as positive. I don't want to come off. Listen, we just said all those beautiful things about DeMar Hamlin.
We did, but what do you want me to say, bro? You basically picking the best loser.
I am picking the best loser, but I wanted to put a positive spin on it. I didn't want to be negative after all those beautiful things we said about DeMar Hamlin and how we've all come together as a football community. I didn't want to start tearing guys down now. So I'm going to take the best loser. New England.
We're not up here doing the Skip Bayless taking personal shots at them. If they ain't good enough to get the job done, they're not good enough to get the job done. If all three of those teams, like I do feel like the Dolphins do have a good chance to win that game because the Jets quarterback situation is what it is. But it's still a 50-50 thing because Tua's not there.
And hold on, I want to say something. So I'm glad you said that because as we're talking about this, like if Miami were to get in a way I don't want them to, just because I know then the talk would be, well, is Tua going to be ready? And Tua don't need to be on the field after 3 concussions.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's something that we spoke about a couple of weeks ago. Maybe the league needs to step in and kind of, shut guys down for a couple of weeks if they have multiple concussions in the same week. You're right that the talk is going to shift to is Tua going to be ready, because that is the only way they will have a chance going into the playoffs to do anything is if Tua is healthy. And shout out to Tua because he's definitely stepped his game up this season. But that offensive line, somebody got to do something better to protect that young man on the field, because he cannot be taking those hits like that. It would be in his best interest. Let me say it again. It would be in his best interest to sit out the remainder of the season, whether or not they make the playoffs. But again, you're right. That is the talk that's going to happen. Is that if they win this game and ultimately they get the playoff spot, because that's basically all it's because I don't see a scenario where the Bills lose to New England in this game. We spoke about it. You mentioned again that the energy is just going to be so crazy. Right now, they're playing for DeMar Hamlin. They're also playing for that number one seed so that they don't have to go to Kansas City if a potential AFC championship game were to go down. If they win, it goes to the neutral zone, which we don't know just yet where that will be. So I don't see a situation where the Bills lose this game, which takes them out of the equation. Um, so I ultimately, if they all three lose, obviously the Patriots still get it. I'm gonna say Miami squeaks out the win and they get it, but I really hope that there's not, if that does happen, we're not putting this pressure on where's the where's Tua question, and everybody in the media is asking is he ready and this and going hard to kind of give that push. You know what I mean? To bring Tua back. So I gotta. That's my pick. Aiden just sent me a message. He said he's taking the Dolphins to win this one as well. I'm about to go back and check my tickets because I gotta see. I don't know what Aiden. I know he's been playing football now, so maybe he does have some inside information.
I mean, talent wise, the Dolphins are a good team.
Yeah,
Just as we kind of talked about it, maybe this is more my personal feeling. It's just I do not want to spend the next week thinking about if Tua is going to play. Just to be honest, I just don't. I don't want to have those conversations. I
I
think
agree.
it's I think it's unfair to Tua. I think it in a way Tua is unfair to his team because guys go out there to play to win, and if Tua gives us the best shot to win, that's who they're gonna want on the field too. But he just shouldn't be on the field at this point. He should be able to rest up and get his mind right for next season. I think because one
Yeah,
concussion is a lot. One concussion is a lot. The young man has had three.
yeah.
So
Even though they ain't want to claim that first one, but
no, they
we know what's up.
right,
We know what's up. We know
right.
that, But with that being said, let's jump over to the NFC playoff race. The last three teams standing, fighting for that. The Seattle Seahawks, the Detroit Lions, and the Green Bay Packers. We kind of spoke about it a little bit earlier. Um, but ultimately, is there any way that you see this thing shifting?
Um, I mean, Seattle could put together the performance and win. That offense has been pretty good most of the year. So I don't think I would be stunned if Seattle won and then created a scenario where Detroit's eliminated and all Detroit can do is play spoiler. I think in the NFC though, it's a lot tougher than the AFC because we're talking about three teams that we've seen have some sort of success this year, and also could put a scare in somebody. Because, like I mentioned, if Detroit is the team to get in, I don't know if Minnesota at the number 2 seed would feel comfortable playing a Detroit team that they know could drop 30 on them. Um, Green
Well,
Bay, you know what I'm saying? Like Green Bay puts a different type of scare in you because it's Aaron Rodgers, and at any moment he can give you one of those vintage performances and win a playoff game. And then
and he just dominated the Vikings.
and you're right. He just dominated the Vikings, and historically he's dominated the Vikings. And then Seattle is in a unique position because again they got a pretty good offense too with Kenneth Walker and with those receivers. So they're a team that I don't think you would be totally comfortable playing them either because it's like that's still a long day for us. So unlike the AFC where we're talking about quarterbacks like Mac Jones and Skylar Thompson and Kenny Pickett, on the NFC side of things, we're talking about, Pro Bowlers and Geno, who's a Pro Bowler this year, Jared Goff, who's thrown for over 4,000 yards, and Aaron Rodgers, who's only a 4-time league MVP. So any
Yeah,
one of those teams I think would be scary. And so even though you and I expect Green Bay to get that spot, I don't think either one of us would be shocked if
yeah.
Detroit or Seattle got it.
Facts, facts, facts. Question for you, Eric. Hold on one second.
What we got? What we got? I want to hear what we got on the questions. You know, it's gonna be a great day, and we got NBA action today too. We ain't even got to the NBA stuff trip. We got boxing we got to get into. It's a lot we got to get into, man. But I want to hear this question. What we got?
Yeah, but before we jump out of the NFL talk right now, I just have a quick question for you. Has Geno Smith done enough, whether or not he makes the playoffs, to get the bag this coming season?
Yes. Is it going to be a Russell Wilson type bag? No. But when you look at the landscape of quarterbacks that are going to be available this offseason, and you look at the teams that need a quarterback, he's going to get paid. I mean, Lamar is the big prize of the offseason, but it's very likely that Baltimore's going to keep Lamar, whether through franchise tag or give him a new contract. Um, then when you look around, the Colts need a quarterback. The Seahawks are still going to need a quarterback. The Saints need a quarterback. The Texans need a quarterback. The Titans are probably going to need a quarterback. Um, I just named 5 teams off the top of my head without even really thinking about every other team. The Commanders are going to need a quarterback. The Jets, I know they say they're bringing Zach Wilson back, but they're going to be in the market of examining who's available as a quarterback. So Gino's going to have some suitors, and he may not get a 5-year deal. It may be something closer to a 2 or 3 year deal, but he's definitely going to get the bag. Um, because after Lamar, I don't who's the best available guy after Lamar, realistically.
Well, who's not under
Maybe
contract?
Jim, yeah,
Jimmy G.
Jimmy G, maybe. Yeah,
Yeah. But other than
yeah,
that, yeah, I don't think there's anybody of that caliber. I know there's a couple of guys that teams are going to reach out to see if they're available via trade. Maybe Derek Carr, Aaron Rodgers, unless Tom Brady becomes available.
yeah.
But other than that, yeah, no, there's not really too much going on at the quarterback position. There's a couple of guys coming up in this draft though that you might want to look out for. CJ Stroud and my guy out of Alabama, Bryce Young.
Bryce
Those
Young,
two
yep.
guys. But other than that, yeah, no, the quarterback free agent market is not, is not nothing too crazy. And I
Yeah.
do think ultimately, well, I'm hoping the Ravens don't wet the bed and mess this thing up with Lamar, and they do ultimately what the Yankees were able to do with Aaron Judge, even though they had the issues with the contract, but ultimately they were able to re-sign Aaron Judge.
I mean, we talked about it before. The Ravens, at the very least, can always exercise that franchise tag on them.
Yeah, exactly.
And,
So that's
and
why I say he'll be there either way.
yeah, they if worst case scenario, if they can't work out a new contract, they'll tag him for 1 year, and that'll buy him more time to get the new contract. Um, for Gino, I mean, because if you're Seattle, even if they lose today, they're 8-9. They're not going to be picking in the top 10 of the draft. So it's very likely that they miss out on those 2 quarterbacks that we talked about coming out in the draft. And then you're in a scenario where it's like, all right, we got to bring Gino back now because we were too good to draft high enough. And we don't want to take a step back now. We don't want to go from a team that was able to at least win 8 games to now a team that can only win 3 or 4. So I think Gino will get paid. There are going to be some opportunities for him. I think he's done a tremendous job in Seattle, and I think the way the locker room has responded to him, from them going from Russell Wilson to see the way that team has responded to him and winning 8 games. I mean, he's well liked, he's well received, he's a leader in that locker room. So I think he'll definitely get some offers and possibly get a nice back from Seattle.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's switch over. Talk a little bit of NBA. Sorry, my lighting is a little crazy right now. The sun is shifting in here. But NBA news. What's going down right now around the league? My main man LeBron James said he's tired of waiting for the Lakers to make these moves. Eric, you and I have both been tired of the Lakers waiting to make these moves. We've been talking about this damn near the last 3 months. Anytime we talk about basketball, so what the heck is going on with the Lakers, and why can't they get it together and make these damn trades?
Yeah, you and I have been calling for a trade since the season started, and I don't know why the Lakers continue to drag their feet with this. Now they're in that very tough spot of we still don't have Anthony Davis. The season is slowly starting to slip away, and we're teetering at the point of being irrelevant. If we're the Lakers, you're really at that point right now, and you're letting a wasted season go by because historically LeBron he's about to achieve probably one of the greatest individual feats in the game, and that's to become the all-time leading scorer. So the Lakers, specifically Rob Pelinka, I think has done a terrible job. My only question for LeBron would be, why did you resign? Because he had the opportunity to not take that extension this offseason, and he could have really forced the Lakers' hand. Like, if you're not going to make a move, then trade me. And
Yeah,
now he doesn't have that leverage, and that's not to blame LeBron. I don't want to turn this into was LeBron's fault. I just wonder, like, what conversations were had behind closed doors that made him think I should take this extension? Because in the past, LeBron has always kept the organization on their toes. He's always kept their feet to the fire with the thinking that, hey, I can leave if you guys don't do right by me. And so right now, Rob Pelinka doesn't seem to have any sense of urgency to do right by LeBron.
yeah. And I think that decision is going to wind up biting them in the butt because you have to you're going to waste one of the most iconic NBA seasons that we've seen in a long time. Because, and we spoke about this a week ago, LeBron James is going to become the all time leading scorer before we hit All Star weekend. He dropped another 37 piece last night and it went over the Kings. So he's going to break that record this season. You guys are not even in the play-in tournament right now. You are wasting the greatness that LeBron has brought to you when he decided to come to LA. He already got you a championship, and now he's going to be the person to break the most points scored all time record in an LA Lakers uniform. So you guys don't even have to have another team player having that record if it ever does get broke. Because I don't think it'll get broke again unless the NBA goes back to allowing guys to come straight out of high school. I don't think the record would be broken again until that happens. Just because you're already going to lose a year, whereas somebody like LeBron who was able to come into through high school, you don't have that anymore. So I don't think that this is a record that's going to be broken again. Period. But you're going to waste that being stubborn, trying to save draft picks for guys that could wind up being bust anyway. Like that's and I don't want people to lose that when you talk about draft picks. Yeah, obviously you're gonna get your LeBrons, your Garnetts, your Kobe's, but you also gonna get your Michael Olowokandis, your what's my man that what's homie name, the bust, Kwame Brown.
Don't talk about Kwame. It's very
Oh,
sensitive.
we don't want
People
the
get
NBA.
very sensitive. Remember, we had to go back and forth with some people in the past. They got very sensitive about Kwame Brown. Don't do that. Don't do that.
But you know what I mean. You get for every great player that comes out of the draft, there's probably 20 players that don't live up to expectations. So and on top of that, you're talking about years down the road. You mean so listen, if you that good as a GM, you maneuver some things to get some picks back later on. That's not until 2027 and 2029. If you're nice, you get them back later on. Plus, if you're winning, them picks ain't gonna mean nothing anyway. So it don't even really matter. So go out, do right by LeBron, do right by the organization, go move some things around. Now I did hear one rumor that the Lakers were trying to hold out on trading those picks to see if Bradley Beal would come available. So I did hear that. Now, and if that's what you're waiting for, then you know what? I'm okay with you waiting. But other than that, I still would like to see the Lakers make that trade with Indiana to get Miles Turner and Buddy Hield, because I'm just kind of over it with Anthony Davis. Like I just don't think that he can stay healthy. But at least if he can not have so much pressure being put on him by having another good big man who is not Anthony Davis, but can score you points, can rebound, similar to what Anthony Davis does, can block shots the same way, can play a little bit of defense and take the pressure off of Anthony Davis. I will take that. But please, Lakers, do not waste this great iconic season that you guys have in front of you and don't make the playoffs.
Yeah, I can confirm, since now that I'm down in the DC area, that those rumors are true. There's been legitimate talk that the Lakers and the Wizards have had some sort of dialogue about Bradley Beal. The only thing is that trade, we would still have to wait about another week. I mean, we're into January, so it doesn't seem too crazy. But as of
Yeah,
January 15th is when Bradley Beal can be traded. So I think by in the next week and a half, we're going to start to hear that rumor kind of starting to circulate a little bit more. The only concern, and you and I both talked about this before with the Lakers, is that yeah, you get Bradley Beal, and on paper it looks good. You add Beal with Braun, and then whenever you get AD back, but the problem is still AD. You need somebody who can kind of be a safety net for AD, and that's why we both like the Miles Turner deal instead, because he gives you a big that if AD isn't available or if AD is limited in any capacity, you still have a serviceable big man who could step out, he could shoot a three, he can get you some easy buckets. More importantly, he could rebound and defend. That's what the
mhm,
Lakers really need. So Bradley
yes,
Beal sounds great. On paper, it sounds great, but does that really alleviate the issue you're having with Anthony Davis? It doesn't. It still keeps you in the same situation you're in right now, where you're so perimeter oriented and you have no big man who can protect the basket. But for the Lakers, you mentioned something, Trip, and I want to piggyback on it. Nobody talks about this, and not enough criticism gets put on Rob Pelinka and the Lakers. realistically, when you look at this time frame that LeBron has been with the Lakers, they have
Mhm.
wasted these years because if they don't make the playoffs this year, this would be, correct me if I'm wrong, Trip, this would be the third time they don't make the playoffs with LeBron. And there was one season where they were a playing team and they got bumped in that playing game. So this is not an ideal scenario. This is not what LeBron went to LA for. He didn't go to LA to just, oh, I'm just going to break records and, we'll figure it out later. He went there with the anticipation of being able to compete for more championships. And aside from that bubble season, aside from that one season, they really have not competed for championships. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like I said, they've missed the playoff twice. They're in danger of missing the playoffs for the third time with LeBron. They got bumped in the first round by Phoenix, and then they lost in a playing game. So this isn't a scenario that LeBron signed up for, and the Lakers have to do a better job at this point because you're wasting the greatness of LeBron James. You don't want this to be that chapter in the book where it's like, yeah, he went there, but the Lakers really didn't do much, and it sounded better than we actually got the results for.
yeah. I did also read earlier today that they were supposed to be giving DeMarcus Cousins a tryout. Obviously, we know he ain't Boogie. You
Yeah,
know what I mean? They ain't Boogie Cousins that we came to know and love. Obviously the injuries took a toll on him. But yeah, man, they have to get this move done. I mean, and the craziest part about this, Eric, is that in year 20, you still have LeBron playing better than 80% of the league. He's giving you that right now. He's giving you 40s, 40, 37. He's doing everything he possibly can to keep this thing afloat. And you ain't helping him.
yeah.
Palinka, it's time, bro. You got to do your
Yeah.
job. It's time for you to get on it, man.
Yeah, I don't think Rob Pelinka has done a good job as a GM at all. I mean, his one card that he can always pull is, oh, we made the Anthony Davis trade, which helped us win a championship. But that was it. I mean, even before Pelinka took over, when it was Magic Johnson running the show, Magic was already flirting with the idea of AD. So it wasn't as if Rob Pelinka did something special that no one saw coming. There was that ongoing flirtation between Anthony Davis and the Lakers, from the day LeBron got there.
Exactly. I kind of liken that to the situation where the one thing that people really gave Phil Jackson credit for was drafting Porzingis for the Knicks, but it was just like, well, who else was he going to draft at that spot? You know what I'm saying? So it's like, bro, yeah, you did it, but that was kind of a foregone conclusion anyway. So I can't
Yeah,
really give you too much credit for the Anthony Davis trade, especially when we're looking at how things are right now. But in
hold on,
any
and
event,
I wanted one more thing you mentioned too. That was a great point that I just wanted to add on too. Like you mentioned, Braun, the scoring title, never being broken is quite possible it never will be because not only like you mentioned about Braun being able to come straight from high school, 20 years in the league, bro. Like that's
well,
super unrealistic for anybody. When you look at as Braun eventually becomes the number one guy on that list, when you look at the top three guys, Braun, Kareem, Karl Malone, they all have one thing in common: 20 years in the league, and that's damn near unheard of. I don't know if there's ever going to be guys that can stick around and be this productive for 20 years. Because look what Braun is, like you said, look what Braun is doing in year 20.
yeah, because you still have to play at an elite level and you
Yeah,
got to if LeBron doesn't get injured these last two seasons, he already has the record.
yeah.
You got to think about the games he's missed over the last two seasons. If he
He would,
doesn't miss those games, the record's already been broken. The record could
yeah,
have been broken last year.
yeah, he would have had the record by year 18, probably, if
Yeah.
not for the injuries. And like I said, people got to realize that too, the level he's playing at, because it's the longevity with the production. Vince Carter played 16 years in the league. Vince Carter ain't a top 10 scorer. You know what I'm saying? And that's no knock on Vince Carter. That just
Oh,
shows that
oh,
even with the longevity, you still got to be able to produce at such a high level. That's what makes what Braun's doing is so special.
exactly. Hey, listen, guys, if you're on the live right now, see we got people still checking in and now. Drop us a comment, man. Just type in there. We'll get to your comments, your questions, whatever you want to get to. Definitely. LeBron still, even with everything that's going on, he's still probably the biggest draw in basketball. He might not be the best player in the world anymore because I think I give that to Giannis right now. I think I kind of tip my hat to Giannis, but he's still the biggest draw in the league because he's still getting all the votes in the All-Star game. It is looking like it is going to be Team LeBron versus Team KD. Now, obviously, the voting hasn't ended yet. I think there's still going to be one more round of calculations before it's official. But I don't in the Western Conference. I don't see anybody getting more votes than LeBron James. And then of course, the rest of the guys to fill out that list in the Western Conference. You got Steph. You got Luca, who's also going to be there. Um, I want to talk though about the Eastern Conference because there's a bit of controversy that's going down in the Eastern Conference, where there are only three front court spots that can go they can be assigned for starters, but there are four superstars in competition for those three spots. Now, right now, the list came out. Obviously, we know Kevin Durant would be the captain if everything went down today. But then you have Giannis at the number 2 spot. You have Joel Embiid at the number 3 spot, and then there's a guy up in Boston by the name of Jason Tatum who's been playing lights out and continues to improve at the number 4 spot. But if that stays the way it is, Jason Tatum would not be a starter in the All-Star game. Now, do you feel like it's robbery if Jason Tatum does not start? Because that's what I've been hearing, and people have been wondering because they're so good and they're doing this and that, but he's got to be there. What do you think?
Jason Tatum's averaging over 30 points a game. Jason Tatum is a legitimate MVP candidate. He's the leader of the Boston Celtics, but it wouldn't be a robbery. And I think people got to understand that, yeah, he's having a great year, but Joel Embiid is averaging 33 points a game. Joel Embiid should probably be the reigning MVP because, in my opinion, Joel Embiid was the MVP last year. So Joel Embiid got to start. Giannis, who we both agree is the best player in the game. Giannis is averaging 32 points a game. Giannis also has had to do it without the luxury of his second best player for most of this first half of the season because Chris Middleton just came back a few weeks ago.
He's also having a double too.
Double, right? So Giannis deserves to start. Kevin Durant is also averaging 30 points a game, which that's what makes this whole argument so crazy. All four of these guys are averaging 30 points a game. In any other season, you average 30 points a game, you're a front runner for MVP. In this season, you could average 30 points a game and not be an all-star starter. So Kevin Durant, as you mentioned, not only is the leading vote getter right now, Kevin Durant averaging 30 points a game. I think it's safe to say that if Tatum does not make the starting spot, he's gonna make the all-star team. We know that.
Absolutely.
But if he doesn't start, I don't think it's robbery. I don't think it's a snub because look at the other guys I just mentioned. Look at the production they've been putting up. And it's very possible that by the time we get to All-Star Weekend, that the Nets will be the number 1 overall seed in the Eastern Conference. Because as you and I talked about, the Nets are red hot right now. Kevin Durant is looking like the old Kevin Durant. Kyrie is looking like the old Kyrie. And it's very possible that Kevin Durant will not only be the leading vote getter, he'll also be the best player on the best team in the Eastern Conference.
Exactly. So, and let me say this respectfully to Jason Tatum, because obviously that's a blue devil. You know what I'm saying? So I support Jason Tatum. That's one of my guys in the league. But you also have to understand when it comes to, and even if because when it comes to the All-Star game, the starters, this is the fans that vote. There were years on the show where we spoke about Yao Ming getting the starting nod so many times. And was he the best center in basketball? No, he was a good center, but was he the best? No, because you had guys like Shaq still around during that time. But because it's the fan vote, and a lot of these guys, see, it doesn't matter how great you are, when if your brand is larger than life, you're going to get that nod no matter what, because you're gonna get the AI effect, the Vince Carter effect, the Kobe effect, the Steph Curry effect now. To where when you see these guys, like Steph Curry is the top guard vote getter in the Western Conference. He hasn't played in like what I want to say 2-3 weeks, but his brand is so big, the fans love him so much. Jason Tatum is ascending to superstar status now, but he doesn't have the brand of those guys. So it doesn't surprise me that he's not in the top 3 vote getters, right? And he's actually fortunate because if things were like it was, I want to say 4 or 5 years ago, where it wasn't just front court, back court, it was center, forward, guard, he really would be in trouble because the center spot would automatically go to Joel Embiid, and then the two forward spots is Giannis and Durant. You know, and when you talk about, you mentioned it with Giannis. Giannis has pretty much played, the half of the first of this season without his second best player in Chris Middleton, who's still not back to 100% yet, and they're still in the top three. You have the Nets that literally just came off of a 12-game win streak. They lost the game, but then they bounced back, won again the night before. So Brooklyn is the hottest team in basketball right now, and they're being led by Kevin Durant, who also has a larger than life brand. So if we're talking about all-star fan votes, yeah, the fans are going to vote for the guys that they know and love the most. That's why, in year 20, LeBron is going to still be the top vote getter. His brand is larger than life. Same thing with Steph Curry. They're going to be the top vote getters. Has Steph Curry been the best guard this season? No. Hands down, that's been Luka, has been the best guard, but Luka was second. John Morant, people felt like he should have got more votes, been a little bit higher up, playing lights out this season, but he doesn't have the brand to take a starting all-star nod from a guy like Steph Curry. So,
Yeah,
and then, and even I'm sorry, and then even going back to the Eastern Conference, even with that, even if it wasn't the fan vote, when you're talking about two out of these three guys averaging a double double, Joel Embiid being an elite player on both sides of the basketball, Giannis being an elite player on both sides of the basketball, and the Nets surging the way they've been surging, there's your three spots right there.
yeah, and I think that Tatum not starting, I could understand the uproar and people like, well, he should be starting. He's averaging 30 points a game. The biggest snub to me as a starter, and it's gonna happen, right? You mentioned Luka. Luka's gonna start. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander should be a starter. Shea Gilgeous is averaging over 30 points a game. Shea Gilgeous has been probably the biggest surprise of the season. But when you talk about brands in Western Conference, you got John Morant, you got Steph Curry, you got Dame Lillard, you got other guards who have bigger names and bigger brands who are going to overshadow Shea Gilgeous. For me, I think Shea Gilgeous is fourth in the league in scoring. He's been phenomenal for OKC. He should be a starting guard. He may be a guy who doesn't even make the All-Star team. That would be the biggest snub.
Yeah. Depending on, because I don't know, because Steph is still out indefinitely. So depending on when Steph gets back, Shea might get that spot. But it may also go to Ja, another guy who's been playing very well this season, De'Aaron Fox, who I think should have gotten more votes. But
Yeah.
again, when we're talking about the starters, a large attribute to that is the size of your brand. And the guys that will continue to start are the guys that have the larger than life brands, which is why AI can miss half a season, come back 3 weeks before All-Star break, and he's still a top vote getter. Vince Carter, Yao Ming, guys
Yeah.
like that are going to still be top vote getters because they have those larger than life brands. And listen, Jason Tatum is on his way to that.
Yeah.
Let's be clear. Obviously, I mean, listen, as much as I would love to say LeBron is going to play another 10 years, I can't see LeBron playing another 10 years. So, eventually guys retire, guys ascend, and you're going to take that spot. And Jason Tatum is definitely on track for that. Getting to the Eastern Conference Finals, finally making it to the NBA Finals, being a front runner for MVP this season, a candidate. He's going to get there, but the guys that are ahead of him have the bigger star power right now. And unfortunately, he's going to get the short end of the stick.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. But again, we got one more round of voting that will be released. But I'm pretty sure it's still going to be, at least as far as the captain spot go, there may be a little bit of moving around in the Western Conference, just depending on if Steph Curry, how long he continues to stay out. I think that the numbers might get a little bit closer. But yeah, man, that's why you continue to win. You got to continue to play great basketball to build that brand up, and I think he will do that ultimately. But congratulations to the front runners right now. KD and LeBron. I'm looking forward to that matchup because LeBron is definitely GM of the year. He's still undefeated. Team LeBron is still undefeated in All-Star games. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. Brooklyn. I mentioned they did that streak did end at 12. At 12 games. They lost to the Bulls, but then they bounced right back the night before. But Eric, I gotta talk to you about the Atlantic Division. The Atlantic Division, I'm looking at this thing, they are really running the Eastern Conference right now, and that's including the Knicks, who are in the 6th seed right now. There's technically, because the playing tournament is 7 through 10, there's only 6 lock-in seeds, and 4 of them are going to the Atlantic Conference if the playoffs started right now.
Yeah, I love it. We hinted at it before. I talked about it in the offseason. I think the Atlantic Division is probably the best in all of basketball when you consider the talent and then you consider the coaching. Because again, we talked about Tatum and Brown in Boston,
Mhm.
KD and Kyrie in Brooklyn, Harden and Embiid in Philly. The Knicks don't have guys on that level, but Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle have played really well so far in the first half of the year. And then the coaching, Tibbs, Doc Rivers. Boston had a little influx there with their head coach, but Jacques Vaughn, who we really like as well. So I think it's a combination of all of those things. I expect at least 4 of those teams to solidify 6 of those spots, because I just think that the talent in that division is so good, and every night they battling it out with each other, and it still shows. I mean, for those guys to have the records they have, even though they play each other so many times, just speaks to the talent that's in that division.
Absolutely. Question, because you're the next guy on the show. If there's one roster spot for a New York Knick in the All-Star game, does it go to Jalen Brunson? Does it go to Julius Randle?
I think it goes. It's a good question because I think Julius is deserving of the spot, but the front court in the Eastern Conference is so, like we said, it's so stacked because we
Yes.
mentioned we mentioned obviously Embiid, KD, Giannis, Tatum. That's 4. Don't forget DeMar DeRozan's having a great year. Jalen Brown,
Mhm.
Pascal Siakam.
Jesus.
So I just mentioned 8 guys, and it's like, where would Julius fit in? So it's probably gonna be Jalen Brunson, but the guard spot isn't any easier. We got Trey, we got Kyrie, and now I'm having a brain freeze.
Let me ask you this. There's a guy who, shout out to Combo, who Combo mentioned that he would have liked the Knicks to draft playing for Indiana, Tyrese Halliburton.
Tyrese Halliburton.
Does he deserve a spot?
I think he does. Don't forget Donovan Mitchell in Cleveland.
Oh,
Um,
damn it,
yeah,
Eric.
yeah. So it is. There are so many guys. It's loaded at the guard position, so it's probably easier for Jalen Brunson, though, I think, because the front court is just, it's too stacked. I don't see Julius Randle being one of the top 8 forwards,
Yeah,
and
nah.
not they're not even taking 8. It's just the fact that he's not even in the top 8 forwards wise. So
And shout out to him. Respectfully, he's playing very well this season.
he's having an amazing year. Jalen Brunson's having an amazing year, but again, the other guys we're talking about are just playing at such a different level, man.
Yeah, and crazy as it is Julius Randle would fall victim to the same thing that Jason Tatum is going to fall victim to, that would keep him out of the starting
Yeah,
lineup. There's
yeah,
just too many great guys, playing in the front court, so it's just tough. But either way, I would love to see Jalen Brunson make his first All-Star team with the New York Knicks, because he has been a difference maker. The Knicks finally have a point guard that they can kind of trust and lean on. He doesn't turn over the ball. He's putting up buckets for them. He's a really good floor general. So I would love to see Jalen Brunson get an All-Star spot this season. Shout out
absolutely.
to
Yeah, no, the Jalen's been amazing. And I think I've been critical with Tibbs, but I got to give Tibbs his credit too. He just got his 100th coaching victory as a Knicks head coach. But this is
not bad.
probably this is probably the most stable the Knicks organization has been in a very long time. Pretty much since Tibbs and Leon Rose and those guys come in, they're not on the back page for the wrong reasons. It's kind of just been basketball. We don't hear about James Dolan anymore. We don't hear about the antics at the Garden anymore. It's really
Right.
just been about basketball, and it's worked out. Tibbs led them to the playoffs 2 years ago. He's probably going to lead them to the playoffs again this year. again, it's probably the most stable because as long as I've known you, Trip, and as long as we talk basketball, we've always had a Nick controversy. We haven't really had one to talk about. We haven't had one to talk about in 3 years.
Facts. And hey, Eric, remind me when we get off there. I got a funny Nick story. I'll decide whether or not I'm gonna talk about it on the air.
All right, we'll talk about it off air first.
Exactly. But boxing, man, fight night, big fight night. One of the top guys in boxing continues his undefeated streak. Javante Tank Davis had to deal with some controversy before the fight, but ultimately the fight was able to go down, and it didn't finish though. It didn't. It wasn't able to, because I think that the fight was supposed to be for 12 rounds, right, Eric? Is that is that correct?
Supposed to be. Yes.
It didn't make it to 12 rounds. We had the second coming of Roberto Duran. Somebody said no mas. Somebody was getting the brakes beat off of them and said no mas. I cannot continue. And Javante remains undefeated. Talk to me about the fight. Talk to me about Javante Davis's performance last night and how dominant he was, and then talk to me about what you expect to see from Tank Davis versus Ryan Garcia in April.
I mean, Tank continues to amaze me with his patience because for a guy as powerful as Tank, you would think he would go in there and immediately try to take somebody's head off. And no, he's super patient. He's willing to kind of bait you. He's willing to rock you to sleep. And we saw it again yesterday. I thought Hector Garcia had a decent game plan. He tried not to be overly aggressive with Tank, understanding that Tank is devastating with either hand. And he tried to be patient. And then, just like most great fighters, when Tank wants to put his foot down and now bring the fight to you, he can do that. And from the 6th, 7th, 8th round, he started to do that. He started to be a little more aggressive. He started to bring a little more pressure. And listen, man, when you hit a man to the point, no, I'm being serious, bro, because like you said, you watch sports long enough as you and I have, you start to see things that you've never seen before.
Mm-hmm.
When you hit a man so hard that he said, I can't see out this eye. And then after the fight, even admits, he said, yeah, I lost vision in my right eye. And I didn't know where I was at for a second.
Wow.
Now, mind you, Tank didn't knock you down. He still did that while you were on your feet. It wasn't like he knocked you down and it's like, oh, I'm disoriented now. No, you were still on your feet and you like, I can't see out my right eye. But the eye ain't swollen. The eye is not swollen. I just knocked the vision out. I don't know what you do with Tank, to be honest. I just don't know what you do with Tank. I don't know what anybody can do with Tank at 130, 135, even at 140 pounds. I
think Ryan Garcia dropped the wrong fight. He probably should have kept the fight he had for this.
And this is why, Trip, this is why you and I make a great team, because when we heard Ryan Garcia canceled his tune-up fight, we both said, I don't think that's the best thing to do leading up to Tank. So Ryan Garcia, unless you know something that we don't know, I don't see a favorable outcome for you come April. It looks like the fight is set. Tank has said as much after the fight. He said it's on. Ryan Garcia was on social media yesterday. He said the same thing. He said the fight is on. I can't wait. But Ryan Garcia, you better be in the gym and you better be working on a game plan that nobody has ever seen. Because every time Tank gets in the ring, bro, Tank does something. He does something to these fighters that they have never experienced before. We saw the knockout of Leo Santa Cruz when he hit him with that devastating uppercut. We saw what he did to Barrios. The only dude that's really been able to handle Tank's power was Isaac Cruz, the pit bull. And even in that fight, there was a couple times Tank almost took him off his feet. So unless Ryan Garcia has a game plan that no one else has ever thought of, or has some sort of strategy that no one else has, a world of trouble. You in for some trouble come April.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to talk to the young guru Aiden about this one, because maybe he might know what Ryan Garcia got going on in his mind to think he should be stepping in the ring with Tank Davis, because I don't see it. I mean, he dominated that fight, and I want to say this because people, there's been a lot of talk, over the past couple of months. Obviously the split with Floyd Mayweather. You mentioned something that we got to see last night with Tank Davis: patience. Floyd Mayweather is one of the most patient fighters that boxing has ever seen. He studies his opponents for those first 4 rounds, and then he goes to work. Do you feel like that is something that he picked up from Floyd Mayweather?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You can see it. You can see it in every fight now that what the boxing term they love to use is downloading information, right? I'm a watch. I'm gonna see what you do. What made yesterday impressive, and one of the things that I kept telling people that asked me about this fight was Hector Garcia wasn't going to be a pushover. Hector Garcia was undefeated as a pro fighter and had over 400 amateur fights. He was an Olympian. There's a guy who's been in the ring with damn near everybody in that weight class. So it wasn't like he was going to be some pushover. And even Tank said that before the fight. He knew this was going to be a difficult fight because this guy's very smart. He's very crafty. But
Yes.
the patience that Tank displays, you look at the early rounds of that fight, Tank wasn't really throwing too many punches. He was really trying to take control of the center of the ring, which is a Floyd tactic. And like I said, by the 6th round, that's when Tank really said, "All right, I'm gonna start to just take control now. I've seen enough of what you can do. I felt some of your punches. Now I'm just gonna take control. I'm going to start forcing you to fight off your back foot. I'm going to take control of the center of the ring. I'm not going to let you circle me anymore. I'm going to force you the directions I want to force you to." These are all tactics of a great, very smart fighter. I think Tank Davis is that. I think he learned a lot from Floyd Mayweather. The scary part is Tank is 28 years old. He, by medical analysis, he's just reaching his physical prime. That's what they say.
Yeah.
When you hit 28, that's your physical prime. So you're talking about a guy who's analyzing and fighting at a level of some of the great fighters, and he's just now reaching his prime. The future is very bright for Tank Davis. I'm super excited to see what he does against Ryan Garcia, another fighter who's taller than Tank, a guy who some people feel is faster than Tank, but Tank has that great equalizer and that power, and mentally he's fighting at a level that most guys don't fight at this age.
Absolutely. And again, Tank didn't Tank. One thing I love about Tank is he didn't go into the fight with arrogance, thinking I'm supposed to beat this guy, I'm supposed to do this, I'm supposed to do that. He had a lot of respect for him, and I like that after the fight, you know, he said, "Listen, I wasn't trying to let him hit me because he know, you can easily get rocked, you know what I mean, and go down. You take the wrong hit." So he understood that, and I love you. You're absolutely right. Tank is getting smarter with every fight. Every time he steps in the ring, he's becoming an even smarter fighter, and I'm really looking forward to seeing him versus Ryan Garcia in
I want
this in
I
coming
want to add one
April.
more. I want to add one more thing to that too. You talk about his smarts and how humble he's coming into the ring. Look back, we know the highlight of what he did to Riley Romero when he almost knocked him to the ropes, right? But
Yes.
not right. But look back at the press conference that he had after the fight, where he said, "We knew he was powerful. We knew we had to be careful with him at certain parts of the ring," which again
Yeah,
speaks to the intellect, understanding that this guy
it's
can
the
be
brain.
explosive, right? This guy can be explosive if he puts me in the right situation. If I put myself in the wrong spot in that ring, this guy can be explosive and cause some damage. Again, that speaks to him being a student of the game and understanding how to dissect your opponent. If I keep you away from these parts of the ring, you can't
Mhm.
hurt me. I can only hurt you, which led to just that beautiful shot. And he said himself, it wasn't even his hardest punch, but it was timed so perfectly that he almost knocked the man damn near through the ropes.
Exactly. So there you go. So big shout out to Tank Davis on that one. More boxing news, which I'm actually more excited to talk about than the Tank Davis fight from last night, and that's because this is family to Real Fans Real Talk that'll be stepping back in the ring. The undefeated Bruce Shoo Shoo Carrington will be back in the ring fighting Juan Antonio Lopez in the featherweight division. You guys know because we talk about Shoo Shoo a lot on the program. He's undefeated. He should have had knockout of the year twice in the 2 month time span with a couple of the knockouts that he had from last year. But he's going to be back in the ring up in Verona, New York on January 14th. And I mean, of course, and I think Eric, I think I can speak for you when I say this. I think we're both looking at another big time Bruce Carrington W. But I'm gonna let you speak on it and you tell me what you got to say about Bruce Carrington stepping back in the ring.
Well, Bruce is one of our favorite fighters, not only because he's a good friend to the show, but he's so exciting when he's in the ring. No, I mean every time he get in there, it could be knockout of the year and
Word.
devastating fashion, right? So we're expecting him to kick off 2023 that same way. This is a
Mhm.
rising young star in the sport of boxing. We heard what Bob Arum has said about him. This kid is the truth. He's on his way up, and this is going to be the first of many great victories for Bruce Carrington.
And he from Brooklyn, so I give me a little extra. you know what I'm
Oh,
saying?
and yeah, I'm glad you said that, right? I know that's near and dear to your heart. But shout out to Bruce because I saw he did something with Mike Tyson. They actually
Mhm.
got together and they were working on something which is big for the borough, big for the city, because we know what Mike means to the city, and Bruce looks like he's going to be that next star from Brooklyn.
That's that Brownsville right there. That's the Brownsville connect right there, man. Shout out to Bruce, man. Big things. And we speaking that victory into existence right now, my brother. We taking that one home. That's for the home team. Congratulations on being able to continue to fight and being a sport that you love. Shout out to Bruce Carrington on that one. Lastly, before we get up out of here, a little bit of baseball news. Trevor Bauer, former Los Angeles Dodger, he was suspended this past season. Um, he had some. He was dealing with some legal troubles. Um, my question to you, Eric, is: do you think that Trevor Bauer's career is over, or is there a team in baseball? Because he's well, at least from the last time we saw him playing, he was still very good. But do you think his career is over?
No, he'll get a shot. He's still young enough. And as you mentioned, you look at his numbers. He was still a very good pitcher before the legal issues. And for people that don't know, he was accused of sexual assault, um, and almost and one woman had even claimed he raped her. So
Yeah.
I say accused because he was never convicted of these things. So I don't want to diminish what the accusations were, but that's what it is. He never was convicted, so we can only say they were allegations. But no, his career's not over. He'll get a shot. I think he's on his last strike though. He was a bit of a hothead even before these legal allegations and legal issues. So any team that does sign him now is going to have him kind of on a short leash and know that we're not going to tolerate your nonsense for much longer. You got one more strike and you're out of here. So he'll get a shot. I just don't know where, and I don't know if he'll ever get to the bag the way he was getting to it with the Dodgers.
Yeah. I think he will too ultimately because at the end of the day it's business. And again, he wasn't convicted of of the charges. He did serve the suspension. I would hope that you got a second lifeline, that you use this the right way and stay out of trouble, and your name is not brought up in anything, period, not even something like this, but anything negative. I would hope that you've learned your lesson having this year off. But ultimately, like I said, it's a business. He was good enough, but before he was above average as far as pitching goes, before the suspension and before all of the legal troubles. So I do think somebody will sign him. I don't know if a major market team would sign him, just because there's still a lot that you're going to have to deal with once you start playing. So maybe one of the smaller market teams might take a chance on him. But ultimately, I do think that he winds up getting another shot in MLB. With that being said, Eric, you want to give us a final thought?
Enjoy this NFL Sunday, man. We appreciate everybody who's tuning in. Keep tuning in. We'll see you guys on Friday as well. Don't forget, we do the live on Friday. We'll be back next Sunday. Next Sunday is gonna be a special episode trip because it'll be NFL playoffs. So we're gonna have a lot to get into then as well.
Yes,
But
sir.
you know what I'm saying? Again, we just love and appreciate you guys for tuning in, man, and just stay safe out there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm just gonna end it off shouting out somebody that we both rock with, family to the show as well. I had the pleasure of shooting Big Gene's first book signing up in Mount Vernon yesterday. His book, My World, the Bodyguarding a Hip Hop Star. You can get it right now on Amazon. So I just want to shout out Big Gene for that one. He's gonna rock out with us soon, Eric. I know you and him have some conversation, and I think our fans really love when you get to sit down and chop it up with Gene because the numbers have shown it. Definitely, he's gonna join us again soon. So big shout out to Gene. Excuse me. Make sure again as you guys are supporting us on all our social media. Click that like button, that follow button, facebook.com/Real Fans Real Talk, Instagram, Twitter @Real Fan Talk. And I'm gonna throw it up on the screen right now. Subscribe to that YouTube channel, youtube.com/For the Fans Productions. And again, if you are not in New York City on Thursday nights from 8 to 9 p.m. and you can't watch us on Verizon 43, do not worry. You can still watch us from anywhere you are in the world. Just hit that website up, www.realfansrealtalk.com. Click that red button on the homepage, and you can watch us from anywhere in the world. And keep coming on to them lives, man. We appreciate that support, man. We had some action in here today. They not on that love. So keep on with it because we got a lot more work to get to, and we ain't stopping no time soon.
That's a fact. We appreciate you guys.
All right, man. With that being said, I'm ready to watch some football. I know you are, Eric. I'm gonna try to sneak in an extra ticket. I'm gonna talk to Aiden and I'll get my tickets together.
We got to give it. Hey, real quick, I just saw it come across my feed too. Giants are resting their starters today. Davis Webb is getting a start over Daniel Jones. So it's kind of like we talked about. They locked in. Daboll doesn't want to show too much of the offense, so they're going to go with a backup quarterback today and let Daniel Jones get ready for next week.
And you called that one, Eric, because you said it's hard to go against the team 3 times in a row, and you might have to. Well, in order to advance, you're going to have to run into the Eagles at some point.
You're gonna have to play them. Yep.
You definitely called that one, Eric. For myself, Trip Young, my brother, legend in 2 games. We up out of here. Peace.